So in this session, we are going to discuss page factory in Selenium. So last session, we have discussed page object model. So page object model is nothing, just like it's a design pattern. So then what is a page factory in Selenium? Page factory in Selenium is an inbuilt extension of page object model. So page factory is nothing we can say, it is the extension of page object model. In page object model design pattern, we are created one Java class for every web page. In that class, we defining the properties, and those properties will contain the reference of the web element of a web pages. So just like you have seen last time, we have one login page. You can check here. This is a login page that we have. Yes or no? So let's understand the difference between page object model and page factory approach. So you can check here, we have this login page. Let's first we have removed this one. We copy this web page and let's understand. Okay, so if you follow page object model approach, so in this case of page object model approach, what we are doing, we have created one Java class which represent one web page. Suppose we have login page for swag logs. So here we created one login class. Yes, no. In this login class, what we are doing? We are defining property which type by type username, and this property contains what contain the reference of that web element. So username suppose contain the reference of which element? Username field. So by dot we are writing user name, and here you can by that which selector we are using, which locators to locate that element. Suppose I'm using id locator, so by dot id, and here we passing the id of that element, user hyphen name. And now second, what you need to do, second field, suppose we have password, so by type we need to declare password. Now we locate that element, store the reference in that password field. So here in the class we have two field, username and password. Username contain the reference of username field, and password contain the reference of password field. And then what you need to do, you need to define method action. Inside a class we can define method, what action you want to do with element. Suppose username string uname, and now here we're going to define action. But before going to define action, you need to find that web element. How you can find? Using WebDriver. So WebDriver dot find element, you are calling the method find element, and you can pass the reference of that element, the element that we want to find. So here we have one field username which contains the reference of the username web element of a web page, and once we have find it, then what action you want to perform, you can perform that action. I want to perform send keys action. We can send what? That username. So in this way we are doing. But if you are using page factory approach, page factory is one more extension, we can say, a page object model. Okay, in this case, page factory, similar you can define class login, and this login class actually to represent each web element. To represent each web element, you can use @find by annotation. So here you can check here in your web page how many elements. Suppose there are 3 elements: username, password, and login button. So in the class we will create one class. In this class we will declare that 3 web element type variable, just like username, and now second web element we have created like password, and third element we have created web element login button. So we have created 3 web element type. And now the first web element, username web element, contain the reference of which element? Suppose it will point to this web element, username web element. So just nothing you need to do, just annotate that field by using find by annotation. Nothing you have need to do. Declare the field, declare the properties, declare the field web element type, and annotate those field by using @find by annotation. And in this annotation, you can indicate actually this field contain the reference of which web element. Suppose here we are using ID locators, so you can use ID equal to and you can specify the ID of that element, username. Similar here you can similar for second field annotate using @find by annotation, and now it contains the reference of which web element, password. So here we are using which locator, ID locator. So in the find by annotation you can specify that locator by which you want to locate that web element. And now similar here, you can annotate find by the annotation login button and you can specify ID locators. So here we are locating element using suppose ID locators. Now, so here we have defined login class. In this class, we can check here in our web page, we have three elements. So we have declared three field like web element type. Which type? Web element type. In our web page, we have three fields. So we have created one class. In the class, we have declared three field type web element type. And now we annotate all the field using @find by annotation. And in the find by annotation, we specify the locators by which we are locating the element. Here we specify ID locators. It means it will pointing to which element? This web element, username web element. So now, whatever username field you define, it means this user field, username web element type field, pointing web element of a web page whose ID is a username. And then you can define action. Suppose I want to define action with username field. So I define one method set username, and here we pass the username, uname. So let's, okay. Now you can check in page. If you follow the page object model, in the page object model, you need to use the WebDriver to find the element. Actually, it contains the reference and then you need to find. But now in page factory model, just declare the element like web element type by annotating @find by annotation. And further, you have not need to find those elements using WebDriver.find element method. Now it means this annotation perform both tasks. What tasks perform? It will contain first, it will try to find the reference of that element and then it will locate that element. After locating that element, it contains the reference of that web element in the field. Now you are ready to use directly without now finding element because it already find out. So here you can use that username, with username, I want to send a keys. So you can call method send keys and you can pass the information. So you can check here you can enhance more. Yes, no, so page or page fact is nothing. Page fact is just is the extension of page object model. So we can enhance page object model approach more by following the page factory patterns. So let's check here what is a page factory. So page factory in Selenium is an inbuilt extension of page object model and it is very optimized. So it is a class, we can say. Page factory is nothing, it is a class we use @find annotation to find web element. So here we are using in this class, we are using two things. One is @find by annotation. That annotation used to find a web element. Find by annotation. And second, we are using one method, init elements method. Init elements method. Actually, this method used to initialize web element automatically. Once you have find out, yes, no, web element, if you want to initialize those elements, so init element method is used to initialize web element automatically. So there are two things we need to use, yes, no, @find by annotation and init element method. So page factory class provide several annotation to locate an element on the web page, but most common annotation is @find by annotation that used to find the element using locators easily. Actually, this annotation used to find element using locator easily. So at the rate find by annotation can accept ID locators, name, tag name, class name, partial link test, yeah, XPath locators. So you can check here. You can define, yes, no, you can check here. You can define a property of field like web element type by annotating at the rate find by annotation, and you can specify locator's name and its value by which you are locating that element. And then we have init element method. Init element method of page factory class used to initialize web element declared in the page class. It is a static method. So static method you can call by its class name. What is the class name? Page factory dot init elements. Let's now we are try to implement this approach. So last time we have created you can check here. Last time we have created login page class, and here we have implemented the page object model approach. Now I am going to implement page factory approach. Same problem, whatever last problem we have implemented. Last problem we have rewrite the script for login page activity used by following the page object model approach. Now today I am going to implement same problem using page factory approach. Which approach? Page factory approach. Let's now we are try to implement. So right click, you can inspect this web page first of all. Now we inspect this web page, and you want to use selector hubs. You can use selector hubs to write an XPath to find the element. So you can check here, suppose if you want to find this element, so you can write slash slash, and you can check here this element, which type. This is an input element, and here you can check slash slash input. Now we are using ID at the rate ID. So you can check, and now we are able to find that element. Now we'll move to our Eclipse ID, and let's go to the saucer pages. Now I'm going to create one login page class. So right click new and create new class. And here I'm going to create new class with name, suppose, oh, sorry. Now here give the class name. Class name I give the login page. So login page class we have already. So I give the name like login page 2. A login page 2 class we have created. So now you can check it in your web page. We need to locate, there are 3 elements we have required to locate right now: username, password, and login button. We want to perform login activity. So we need to locate how many elements? We need to locate 3 elements. So what we need to do in our class, yes, we need to define there are 3 type web element type. Web element. Which type element? Web element. So we need to declare 3 web element: username and web element, which type? Password, and web element, and one more is a login button. 3 type element we have declared. After declare these 3 type element, now each element we have need to annotate at the rate find by annotation. Here we are using at the rate find by annotation. Now first web element contains the reference of which element? First web element is pointing, first field, we can say first web element pointing to which element of a web page. So here we are using the locators. So suppose here we are using the locators to locate an element. So you can say this is the XPath. You can specify that XPath here. So we are locating username by using this XPath locator. Now second web element also we have need to annotate find by annotation. Now we pass the ID here. Now we locate which field? At the rate ID at the rate. Okay, we need to locate which element? Now we need to look at that element. So at the rate ID, again we need to write down a slash input at the rate ID equal to password. Now this is the XPath to locate password element. So now in the XPath we are passing which locators? XPath locators, and specify yes no to locate password element. Once it locate, then it will find that web element and that field will point that web element. Similar, we need to find login button. So let's now we locate which element? Login button. Okay, we need to cancel this one. Select locate and let's refresh the web page once again. We'll move to the, okay, you can input type. Okay, so here also we can write / input @ id equal to login button. Now copy this URL pattern, copy this XPath, and now we need to locate this web element by using @find by annotation. Now we can specify XPath equal to, what is XPath? Yeah. Okay, after defining, yes, no, understand all the step one by one. First of all, what we need to do, check your web page, which element you have required to process to perform activity. Suppose here we want to perform login activity. For login activity, we need to require three elements: username, password, and login button. So we have need to declare three web element in our class, and each web element we have need to annotate @find by annotation, and then we need to specify locators by which we are locating a web element of a web page. So here we are locating the web element of web page using XPath annotation, and then actually now once you have annotate, now this field actually pointing and referencing the web element that we have located by using the given XPath. And then after that, what you need to do, you need to define a method. What action you want to perform with those elements that you have declared in your page factory class. So let's, with username, I want to set a value. So here we define one method, set username, and now we'll pass one parameter uname. And now here we are writing, okay, which element? Username. Okay, you can check here. Now you have not required to find element using WebDriver. In page factory, actually you have located the element, then you need to find those web element using WebDriver.find by element method. But here you have declare a web element type element, and it will locate and will find. It will locate by giving the locators, and then it will find that web element. So it's directly pointing that web element with that element you want to work. So I want to work with username. So you can check now you are ready to use directly username. I want to send a keys. Which keys? Uname. Finish. And then similar, I want to define one more method, public void set password. I want to set the password. So string pwd. Let's now here, what is our password? With password, I want to send a key. Password dot send keys. Which key we want to send? pwd. And then what action you want to perform with login button? Public void click on login button. Which action? Click login button. Click on login button. So now here you can specify action. So what is the button name? Login. Yes, no, login button dot you can perform click action. Click action. And after that, once you have defined this, then you need to define a constructor. And now here we need to declare one property WebDriver type. Which type? WebDriver. We need to supply WebDriver. Yes, no, WebDriver. And now we need to declare a constructor. So right click, you can go to the source and generate constructor using field. So we need to deselect all field. We need to select only WebDriver. Let's now we have initialized the WebDriver. Once you have initialized the WebDriver, so whatever web element you have declared inside a class, those web element needs to initialize automatic. Then inside the constructor, we have need to call one method, init element method. Init element method available in page factory class. So this is a static method. This is a static method, and static method you can call using class name. So here you can check here in this init elements method, you can pass your WebDriver as an argument. You can pass WebDriver argument, and now so WebDriver we have declared WebDriver, and second argument we need to pass which object you want to initialize. I want to initialize this current object. So current object reference you can pass using this. Okay, so which object you want to initialize? I want to initialize this current object. Yes, no, current class object. So whatever current object you want to initialize, so current object reference we can pass using this keyword. So second argument we are passing this keyword which pointing to the current object. Now your login page factory class is ready. Now you can write test cases. So you can check here, go to the testing package, and now you can create one more tester class. So we can say login tester using factory. Yes, no, page factory, page factory. Now you can click on finish button. So let's now we define one test method, public void verify login, verify login. So now this is a test case. So you can annotate at the rate using test annotation. And now this class, we have test class, we need to extend our base test class. So now we extend our base test class. Now you want to work with which activity? Login page activity of that web page. So this web page you are representing by using page factory class. So you can create that page factory class directly. What is the page factory class? Login web page, login page 2. You can check it. Create the instance login page 2. So login page 2 equal to new login page 2. And you can pass WebDriver as an argument because it takes WebDriver as an argument. Now, once you create login page, what action you want to perform? I want to set the username. What username? Yes or no? You want to set password. What password? You can check here. I want to set password secret underscore secure. Okay, I want to set username. So you can check a login page to dot. We have method set username. What username we want to set? You can check here. Standard underscore user. Standard underscore user. Let's copy this name. Standard underscore user. And then login page to dot. I want to click on login button. Once you have clicked login button, and now you can check yes no. After login, you are expecting, you can check here. After login, I'm expecting this URL. So you can copy these 3 lines. Last time we have already written. So once login is successfully, then we are retrieving the current URL of web page, and we are expecting this URL after login successfully. And here we are matching where the current URL and expected URL is match or not match. If match, then your test case is passed. Otherwise, your test case is failed. Let's now run this test case. Let's save first of all the classes. Now run the test case and now check the output. Now you can check here. Your test case is pass. Now you can check here your test case is pass. Now you can check your test case is pass. Now verify a log is successfully logged in. So this is the approach, yes, no, which approach? Page factory approach that we can use to write Selenium script. So page factory is the most enhanced approach in compared to page object model, yes, no. So we can use page factory approach while you are writing the Selenium script. I hope it's clear. Thank you.